Welcome to Know Your Mobile. It's Basil here, and I've been living with the Sony Xperia Z now for a few weeks. This is probably the first time I've been able to say I can definitely do a living with piece for this phone. Now, 3 weeks with an Xperia Z, and what do we think? Well, it's firstly a beautiful phone. 3 weeks in, we still think the design is stunning, and it's almost second to none. We'd be tempted to take this over the iPhone, even when it comes to the physicality. The large screen, really gorgeous. The glass front and back feel rich, and generally the device just delivers a very classical aesthetic altogether. We've got the purple version, and we've kind of fallen in love with the playfulness of it, but the black version is also gorgeous. The white version a little bit more young and sporty maybe. Ultimately though, the design gets a huge thumbs up even 3 weeks down the line. It's boded well in terms of scratches as well. The Dragon Trail glass has provided a very powerful coating when it comes to dealing with everything we've thrown at it in terms of day-to-day use. There are no scuffs on here, no scratches. Ultimately, we're impressed so far, and this has been submerged quite a few times and still works like a champion. The Sony Xperia Z also packs a beautiful 5-inch display. Now, we've compared it against the HTC One since our video review. The HTC One packs much better viewing angles, much. In fact, it also packs deeper colors. There's more vibrancy on the Sony Xperia Z though. For things like movies, it does pop a little bit more, even if it doesn't have as much tonal range. It's also got a larger display and is therefore more immersive than the One to a degree. However, if you want to do things like read text, for example, the One might edge just slightly ahead. With a pixel density of 441 pixels per inch, you're really not going to complain though. Clarity is immaculate. So that's been the screen and the design. We'll jump back to the design a little bit and refer to all these ports. Now, we mentioned in our video review, because that's what we were informed, that the actual phone would come with a dock. It doesn't come with a dock, unfortunately, and the dock has proved priceless in improving our impression of the phone. All the ports are underneath flaps, so in order to charge the phone, we'd have to wedge our fingernail under here and stick a micro USB port in there. And it's not the end of the world, but this flap, if that breaks, for example, it stops it being waterproof, blah, blah, blah. We're just a little bit concerned. It probably won't happen. Chances are it's just us being overly concerned, as we're meant to be as reviewers. However, it's worth bearing in mind, especially if you have real issues with opening up flaps. Also, if you do get this phone and want to be listening to music all the time, you should definitely invest in a Bluetooth receiver or a Bluetooth set of headphones, as again the 3.5mm headphone jack is underneath flap, and if you've got that open in your pocket, for example, and it's rubbing away in your pocket, we can see that flap wearing down. Had no experience of this happening, don't get us wrong, but we're just being foresightful. Ultimately, again, when it comes to the design though, like we said, classical, beautiful, really rich altogether, and very impressive work from Sony. Definitely the best phone they've produced, and ultimately, as we're going to say at the end of our review, arguably the best phone on the market right now. Now moving on to the user interface, and Sony's UI is a little bit heavy. We quite like it. We think it's very cohesive. We love how you can change the themes. We love how customizable it is, how you can, things Sony have done for a while, reorient your applications in your own order, etc. by most used. These widgets are really great, and Sony's new user interface, which allows you to add and remove home screens, is very enjoyable to use. It's smooth for the most part, very occasional stutter. That 1080p display weighs heavily on it. But one thing we really were upset with was the internal storage. While 16GB is plenty, and it will be plenty for most users, this is a gaming powerhouse with that gorgeous display. If you pack a few games on there though, given the fact Jelly Bean can't move applications to the SD card, you're going to fill this thing up in no time flat. We had to get rid of games before we added new ones. Also, things like Spotify, your music is all stored on the actual phone, not on the SD card, which is a real shame. And it definitely hampers the experience when, you get this notification telling you that your phone is full after a month living with it. You can, however, transfer files to the SD card, and that's just standard files like photos and your music, not Spotify music. This is all handled by a very intelligent mode within the phone, and we really like that Sony have thought of that. Next, it's really up to Android, not Sony, to allow you to move applications to the SD card once again. In terms of the camera, we maintain what we said in our review. It produces very, very pleasing images, however they are heavily processed. Ultimately, you're going to be enjoying this camera to death if you're a standard user. If you plan on taking your images and photoshopping them afterwards, you might feel like you're a little bit let down by the quality of the images. They look great, but they are very heavily processed, and so you'll just be processing processed images. As any photographer knows, that isn't ideal. Now, as far as the actual performance of the phone goes, that Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 processor does a sterling job. We mentioned there's just ever so slight lag occasionally, but one thing it does get is very, very warm, right around the camera mount. Hotter than actually any other phone that we've used, and that's because of the beautiful Full HD display. Namely with games. Full HD movies do it to a degree, but not as much as games. If you're gaming, for example, and tethering your internet at the same time, then you are going to be getting a very, very warm patch right about there, and it can prove uncomfortable. Ultimately, again, we're saying ultimately a lot, we definitely found that the experience is paramount. Gaming is immense, and the UI and the visuals just come together beautifully. Battery life is very hit and miss. We were able to get a day and a half out of this phone with battery stamina on, when we weren't using the screen too intensively, but when we were able to get as little as 6 hours out of the phone, 6 to 8 hours. So it won't even last a working day, let alone a full day. But like we said, if you're going to be using it in a more standard way, you can get as much as 1.5 to 2 days out of it with the power stamina mode on. So that's been our living with the Sony Xperia Z. We hope you've enjoyed. If you've got any questions, please fire us a comment below. If you've enjoyed this video, click like, and if you enjoy all our videos, just click subscribe.